França, uma nação cuja magnificência imperial levou-a a criar alguns dos maiores feitos de engenharia que o mundo já viu. A França foi governada por homens que se comparavam a deuses e que moveram guerras sangrentas pelo continente. A busca pela perfeição levou esse povo a construir em escala monumental.
Notre Dame is a structure of breathtaking innovation.
Mas sua extravagância desenfreada causou uma revolução que trouxe o Império à beira da ruína. Desse caos emergiu um fabuloso conquistador.
Napoleon is a force of nature.
Seu objetivo era edificar um império como o de Roma. Construindo um Império, Napoleão. 1163, Paris. Um exército de pedreiros trabalhando em blocos de calcário agita-se na Île de la Cité, uma ilha no meio do rio Sena. O local era sagrado há milhares de anos. Inicialmente foi um santuário druida. Depois transformado em um templo romano ao deus Júpiter. Mais tarde tornou-se o destino de peregrinos cristãos, graças a São Diniz, torturado e decapitado aqui. O rei da França ordenou então a construção de uma nova catedral que seria a inveja de toda a Europa. Esse rei foi Luís VII. A catedral é Notre-Dame, até hoje uma das mais magníficas já erguidas.
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. The day of glory has arrived. Hello, I'm Peter Weller. I learned the Marseillaise, perhaps the world's most passionate national anthem, about 15 years ago when I decided to take some time off and come here to the streets of Paris and retrace the steps of the French Revolution. But the immediate legacy of the French Revolution was by no means days of glory. It was a reign of reactionary terror that left France in political chaos with headless corpses and eventually brought on Napoleon. Democracy was to come later. But just as the foundations of democracy are bathed in blood, so are they also bathed in beauty. And the glory and beauty of France endure in its invention, innovation, in the arts and sciences, in its civil planning and architecture, and in its incomparable facility to build, like a cathedral. The word cathedral does not just infer some big old church, generically. It's taken from the word cathedra, meaning seat. It is the seat of the bishop or the archbishop, the pope's representative in a particular parish or district. This is the Cathedral of Paris, Notre Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris, dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It ain't bad, is it? Matter of fact, it's probably the world's most famous church. Now, before this, in the early Middle Ages, churches were built in a style called Romanesque, using elements of real ancient Rome, like columns and capitals. Romanesque churches were short and fat and squatty, with big, thick walls, little bitty windows, barrel vaults, rounded arches. Even the Romanesque sculpture was austere and solid. But the churches didn't hold a lot of folks. And the Bishop of Paris, Maurice de Sully, not only wanted a church that would fill up with thousands, he wanted a church that would inspire awe.
Maurice de Sully era um ícone cristão na França. Após anos de lutas sangrentas, ele e Luís VII quiseram consolidar seu domínio sobre as terras feudais francesas. A grande catedral deles seria a pedra angular desse novo regime e símbolo de sua autoridade inquestionável. Seria construída de um modo nunca antes visto na Terra.
Maurice was the Bishop of Paris at a moment when Paris really was a boom town. Louis VII established Paris definitively as the capital of the Kingdom of France. I think Maurice wanted to build a building that was worthy of the status of the city and men of enormous wealth and power.
The 2 centuries from the 1100s to the 1300s that it took to build Notre Dame, from soup to nuts, is a period we call Gothic. But originally Gothic was a disparaging term. Isn't that always the way when the next generations don't like anything that came before? Gothic falsely meant of the gods, or barbaric. But Gothic is majestic, with tall decorative spires and thin lancet windows and round rose windows and stained glass, and huge, massive piers inside, wide naves. When you think Gothic, think vertical.
The Gothic, one of its primary characteristics is the sense of both spaciousness and scale and extreme lightness, both structural lightness and then an interior filled with light filtering in through the stained glass windows. It presented a kind of new vision or new image of heaven to the worshiper.
Notre Dame tem o comprimento de um campo de futebol com paredes que se elevam mais de 30 metros. É tão grande que engoliu a velha igreja de Sully, a qual continuou funcionando durante os primeiros anos da construção de Notre Dame. Andaimes permitiam o erguimento de materiais e equipamentos pesados como madeirame e alvenaria para construir as abóbadas. Um engenhoso guindaste giratório movido a tração humana acoplado no topo do andaime era usado para içar a carga mais pesada.
A man or two would have gotten in the wheel and essentially like a hamster hoisted the materials up.
Para construir a catedral, milhares de operários despenderam suas vidas inteiras erguendo essas paredes.
Each mason seems to have had a mark which he would carve into the blocks so that they would get paid by the piece. One often has the romantic notion that each stone was a kind of carved prayer, but it was much more practical than that. If there was no money, there was no work.
So many thousands of tons of stone were needed that it started a craze called the cult of carts, wherein men, noblemen and commoners, would hook themselves to ox carts and pull the stones seeking absolution along the way. Now, as opposed to Rome in the Renaissance and even now, where architecture is deductive, that means it's thought out on paper according to mathematical proportions, Gothic architecture was additive. Some of these churches were just drawn in the dirt and then they went up. It's not to say that they didn't have a plan, but if they made a mistake, they added a pier or a wall or a pointed arch. Now, the thing with Notre Dame is that the weight of these stones, the downforce was so incredible. They also had the added problem of the wind because they were building up. Subsequently, they invoked this fantastic engineering element called the flying buttress. The flying buttress is this sort of half arch which displaces the weight out and then down. Notre Dame was so magnificent that it started a craze of Gothic building throughout Northern Europe, even before it was half finished.
No passado, quem quisesse construir verticalmente era frustrado pela gravidade. O peso esmagador de um teto de pedra criava demasiada pressão externa nas paredes. Talvez tenha começado como um tipo engenhoso de andaime para suster as paredes. Os arquitetos rabiscaram plantas da estrutura em ascensão e obtiveram a solução do contraforte volante, elemento vital no estilo gótico. Com esse suporte, paredes carregadas podiam conter grandes orifícios para janelas majestosas, que antes eram impossíveis, pois as paredes eram frágeis demais. Em 1190 foram erguidas as paredes ao sul e ao norte da nave, bem como as abóbadas inferiores. As torres a oeste também estavam sob construção, elevando-se à altura da grande janela de rosácea, talvez o mais famoso vitral do mundo.